While I was in Europe, a story broke. A story that, and I'm saying this with no irony, with no hyperbole, I genuinely, sincerely think this is the biggest news story in the world right now. It is the most important thing for us to be talking about. That's right, the band Geese. Wired magazine published this article. Now, are you familiar with this band Geese, which, important to note, is not Goose? Goose apparently is a jam band. Geese is a bunch of rich kids from Brooklyn who make music that makes me feel old. Let's play a little Geese right now. Let's play a little of their music before we dive into this story. I kind of like their song, Trinidad, it's called. This one I kind of like. I saw them on Saturday Night Live, as you know, we often do. And I saw them, and the first song was like kind of weird and mopey. I was like, I don't get this. I don't see. Why is my. No. I didn't fully understand what's going on. But then they played their second song, and it was also kind of weird and mopey and slow. I'm like, what the is happening? And then, of course, the guy just started screaming, "There's a bomb in my car!" And I was like, okay, I can this. I can this. I'm trying to find a version of it that will not get me demonetized or whatever it is. Live in Detroit. Detroit's a good place to scream, "There's a bomb in my car." Let's listen to a little Geese, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to take a while to load it up because the music's that good. They're from Brooklyn. They're all like 23. They're very popular. But did people choose to like them? Is your perception being manipulated? Does anyone really like Geese? Or is it, of course, a psyop? Okay, get to okay? You're having fun. You guys have enough money. Have other people tune your instruments off stage. You don't need to be on there tuning your They're a bunch of like New York prog jazz kids, and so all their songs have weird time signatures and Let's jump ahead a little bit. The bomb in my car thing, buddy. That's all we want to hear. I kind of like this song. Or do I? Heard of Geese? Sound off in the comments if you're familiar with this band. Okay? And they're coming back. They're playing shows now after they flew south for the winter. Great joke. Now, Geese blew up recently. All of a sudden, they were everywhere. Their new album, Getting Killed, is big. They're on Saturday Night Live. They're on all the talk shows. They're on Jimmy Kimmel. Probably not Jimmy Fallon. They're too hip for that. Jimmy Fallon will not let anyone play if they have not, their last gig was not on a cruise ship. On a cruise ship for a crowd wherein 35% of them died before the cruise was over. That is the kind of people Jimmy Fallon gets on his show. But Geese was everywhere. Last week, Wired published this article. The fanfare around the band Geese was a psyop. The Brooklyn band Geese was labeled a, quote, industry plant by those who questioned its sudden ubiquity. Maybe it was. Now, first note here, I don't know a band being called it. It's they. It's people. They're all individuals. They're probably all non-binary. All of these members of Geese are young, hip Gen Z members. They probably are so gay they've circled around to being trad wives again. Let's read about this. Brooklyn indie rockers. Oh, wasn't. I didn't have the what am I trying to say? The paywall earlier. I'm going to have to figure this out. Anyway, Brooklyn indie rockers Geese shot to the heights of rock and roll fame at the end of 2025. Their fourth album, Getting Killed, was released in late September and dominated the year's top 10 list. Their fall tour sold out almost everywhere. The collective buzz earned them slots on Saturday Night Live and made the band and frontman Cameron Winter, who has his own solo career, something close to a household name. You start a free trial here. At least in households where polyrhythmic. Oh, look at this. $2 a month, first month free. Okay, did I get a free trial and then I can cancel it? All right, let's do this.
Several hours later.
This is the problem. I hate like paywalls on things, but also I'm like, the world's falling apart because nobody pays for entertainment anymore, which I think is also true. Everyone expects everything to be free. And so I'm like, that's also everything should be free. That's what you got to realize. None of us are above anything. All right. I don't trust anybody who's like, no, I don't understand why everybody has this one opinion. It's like, I get it completely because I'm lazy. I want everything for free, but it's wrong. It's bad. It makes art worse. Okay. I tried. No, I don't want to link and review. I want to pay $0 right now.
Several hours later.
This is genuinely a mad face with me.
Several hours later.
All right, this is better because this is a video. Okay? The claim that the band Geese is a psyop stems from an April 2026 Wired article detailing how marketing firm Chaotic Good used astroturfing, creating fake accounts to generate fake hype to boost the band's visibility. So there is a marketing firm, a PR firm, okay? I've been in bands. I've never given PR firms a bunch of money, but I've asked PR firms how much money they would want, and it's a lot of money. And I'm sure what I was getting would have been a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what Geese was getting. Now, a lot of these PR firms, at least how they used to work, is, they knew people. They'd push people. You just email a random magazine, be like, listen to my band. They go, hey, listen to this. And they fart in an email somehow. They send you an email with a GIF of their farting. Okay? They don't give a But if it's coming from a press agent who has credentials, who knows people, they might actually pay attention to it. Okay? That's how PR has worked up to this point. What Chaotic Good does that is different is they are creating fake people. They are literally creating fake accounts on TikTok, on Instagram, everywhere. Bots, or maybe just Bangladeshi children. Which is cheaper? Creating a bot or teaching a Bangladeshi child how to do copy-paste on, oh, Geese is like if Lou Reed fronted the Talking Heads, but, they were good. I don't know what they would say. I'd be a bad press agent, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? The band Geese it's like, what if Bob Dylan was into krautrock? Just say a bunch of stupid buzzwords. Who gives a They created all of this fake hype around this band. Let's listen to what this guy has to say about it.
So people are calling this band Geese a psyop or an industry plant because they use a marketing company, which sounds pretty ridiculous, but there could be something to it. I'm in a band and we have to market our music, so this is kind of interesting to me, so I want to talk about it. So what had basically happened was Geese worked with a marketing agency called Chaotic Good to help get their music pushed online by seeding content, getting clips circulating, and trying to trigger the algorithm. So this wasn't just like paying for Facebook ads like people are kind of traditionally used to.
It's triggering the algorithm. Because the thing is, if you present stuff to people enough, they will not like it necessarily, but they will register it as legitimate, worthy of consideration. As an independent artist, as someone struggling to get anyone to give a about anything they do, as I have been pretty much my entire adult life, except now I've given up the hope of anyone caring. Now I just have fun with it. Who gives a We're amusing ourselves. I play songs at the beginning of all of these. Nobody wants to hear that. I'm having fun. The point is, people will not pay attention to a non-famous artist. I think this is true everywhere, but especially in America. People need to have some sense of like, okay, this is a legitimate band. What up, Chad? Hobo with the Shotgun. Thanks for joining us. So if you put things in enough people's faces, and especially if you put some money into making it look good, having a certain look, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, people will consider it legitimate, and enough people will follow along that you can have a successful music career. That is what the band Geese does. That is what Chaotic Good does. Now, to some degree, and this is what people say, how different is this from, let's say, payola? When, they used to pay radio stations, record companies would, to play certain songs. Well, first off, payola was a huge scandal and people didn't much care for it. And I would say this is worse because this pretends to be organic. I sincerely do not like this. I think a lot of people are sweeping it under the rug, but I think it has major implications on society at large. What we enjoy, what we think about, who we vote for, ? It's all in the algorithm, okay? Humans are social creatures. They want to like the same things that other people like. So if you see some video with Geese, again, we played some of it. I kind of like this song. Let's go back to the screaming. All right, it's like if Lou Reed was the lead singer of Radiohead and they were into death metal. That's Geese. They're a fine band. They're not untalented musicians. But, you can find, in any major American city, you can find literally 100 bands as good for all intents and purposes, But back in the day, there was the radio and there was magazines. And that's how people discovered music. And I don't want to pretend like everything was pure and innocent back in whatever, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. Everyone's always been obsessed with fame. I'm sure, every punk zine writer in the 90s who was like, Green Day sucks. If Green Day came to their basement, they'd let them play and give them free beer and be like, yeah, we love you. It's always been this case. There's the punk rock existed for 3.5 weeks in 1975. That's it. It's over. Don't worry. What has happened is we've moved away from finding your music on the radio, through magazines, where again, there is the notion presented to you that this is curated. It is not organic. And it was curated. People controlled trends in different ways back then. They lost control of that a little bit with the internet. They've grabbed it. So we have these groups like Chaotic Good that are creating false accounts. That's the problem. They're pretending to be real people.
No bots, no fake streams, anything like that. Just a very strategic, coordinated marketing push, which did involve creating a bunch of fake accounts, which
there were bots. Yes. He's saying no bots, no fake streams, I guess. Not going on Spotify and trying to jigger the algorithm there. Spotify's got a pretty good security. They lock that down. These different social media sites claim they lock things down, claim they can get rid of bots, but they can't really.
They posted generating buzz about the band, which I do remember people doing on MySpace way back. So now people are calling them fake manufactured industry plants, as if this whole thing was from the top down, from the record label to make this band pop off. Keep in mind, they have been at it since 2016. This band's 10 years old. And the idea of an industry plant is basically this. A band that...
Yeah, I would say industry plant is not the word I would use. I mean, they have rich parents who paid for all this stuff, And so, you're not wrong, but you're getting angry about this practice a decade too late. I think you're right. Because you're totally correct. And the damage has already been done, and there's probably no going back, and we can't put the genie in the bottle. Okay? And honestly, when it comes to rock bands, who gives a The guy from Geese is tall and kind of weird looking, and I'm sure he was in a band in the 90s that hired a PR agent. He could have gotten his dick sucked too. Who cares? No one actually likes anything. Nothing's authentic. Who gives a any rock and roll band is bare minimum 50% image, bare minimum 50% the experience you get being a fan of the band as opposed to any kind of music. You know, it's not the people who are really good at their instrument, like Wingay Malmsteen or some nerds. All right, real people like power chords and songs about how you can't get pussy or are getting too much pussy. Those are the two genres of songs that people like. But this is not. Okay, just happening here. It makes you question if anything you see on the internet is real whatsoever. The person you're arguing with on Facebook, are they real? You guys heard of the dead internet theory? The idea that basically there are no real human beings on the internet, which isn't entirely true. But I think there's some truth to it. And it couples with groupthink. People do not think for themselves. People think in herds, okay? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too mad about this. Maybe they're silly.
That seems organic. Seems like they're just kind of popping off on their own, but they're really being like paid for and like pushed by like people up at the top to kind of like push this band into the spotlight. Usually by money, connections, or just like record label support, which I think is kind of every musician's dream. I think, I don't know. And people are obsessed with it right now, like trying to like expose artists and like try to find out like why they got big and who their parents are. Like
that's a big thing right now. Part of that is, obviously it's not so much, it's specifically tied around housing, okay? And how the price of housing has exploded in this country because wages have outpaced inflation broadly. You're watching from the metaverse? That's fun. I have a MetaQuest 3. I use that to play video game. I just beat the Iron Man video game in MetaQuest 3. I don't really around. Sometimes I'll go in there and find cool videos. I watched a whole video yesterday, an immersive video on this wasn't yesterday, also it was Monday, but whatever, it's not important. It was on like some little weird peasant town in China. I was like, cool. I'm gonna go move here. Probably snakes. I don't like that. Yes. So I think a lot of this comes from bitterness and resentment over people in terms of it's so hard. It's hard to be an artist now. When people talk about, oh, the economy is falling apart, no one can afford to live. I think a lot of that is greatly exaggerated. Okay? Again, wages have outpaced inflation recently since post-COVID. I always point to it, but I think it was 2021, maybe 2022. A lot, they did studies of people, they did polls of people, and most people agreed with both statements. Most people agreed that overall the economy was bad and everyone was suffering, and people agreed that they were doing better than before. Watching from space with Andrzej D. Putin, I don't think they're an industry plant. I don't think they're doing this chaotic good. I think they had a weird look and they did that KEXP video. Not the Tiny Desk. What am I trying? It was like KEXP from wherever from, I think French Canada or something. But anyway, they did that and then people watched it. I think they basically did something a little more organic. The music is so weird and it's very cool. I like them actually. But do we like anything? My point is, people, the vibe session, as people called it, right? Most people very sincerely believe that everyone else is doing bad, but they're doing fine. Okay? Why is that? Because our thoughts, our opinions can be manipulated and controlled. And I agree, beep, beep, boop. I agree I should get a microtonal guitar. Watching from Mars with Sabrina Carpenter and Benson Boone. Don't let him do a backflip. But Sabrina Carpenter, I'd like to see her naked. I don't have anything clever for that. Sabrina Carpenter, better than Taylor Swift. I'm willing to say it. I like her songs better. They're fun. She's enjoying herself. Sabrina Carpenter. She's having fun out there. Benson Boone, not into the music, but I love that he tries. I love the songs seem dull to me. They don't give me a lot. I'm not motivated by them. But he comes out and he puts on a show. He's backflipping over everything. He's like, oh, these beautiful things that I got. He burns calories. Again, the band Geese just standing there. But the point is, one of the things that has blown the up and is a sincere, very genuine problem in America is the price of housing, especially in major cities. which is really where art still happens, where bands still happen. It's hard to be a band in the middle of nowhere, even with the internet. You got to live in a major city to connect with people, to connect with bandmates, connect with other people talented enough to play music, to connect with tastemakers, to, open for bigger bands coming in on tour, et cetera, et cetera. So it is, I feel, and I haven't looked at any data for this, and I'm not going to. Numbers are for nerds. But I feel like it's harder to be in a band right now than it was even in my youth, and especially not like in the 90s, Nirvana, all three of those guys were pretty poor, especially Kurt Cobain, genuinely poor. They would often say Chris Novoselic handled all of the band's finances, the player in the early days, because he was the only one who A, graduated high school, and B, he was the manager of a Taco Bell. So they were like, you have management experience, bro. You handle our paperwork here. Kurt Cobain lived in an apartment with his girlfriend. He was a bit of a fail boyfriend. He did have a few various jobs here and there, being a janitor and stuff like that. But his girlfriend worked as a waitress and could afford, a 1-bedroom apartment in Olympia, Washington, not even Seattle at the point. And so I think it's harder now. There's just this sense of I don't think it's entirely in everybody's head. He was always the player. That's true. He, in a way, remains the player from Nirvana. I mean, there's no way anyone goes, Chris Novoselic, the guy who played on that one Flipper album. No, that's his main thing that he does. He apparently is a little bit of a libertarian kook or something right now. I'm not really sure. He's cool. He's super tall. Big ups to him. Lines in Nirvana are underrated. Good band. I'm going to say it. Good band. People are mad that only rich people get to be in rock bands anymore. It's an issue. I don't care for it. And that's why I'm getting 3 homeless guys. And we are starting a Beatles tribute group called Garbage Beatles.
The internet it's not the internet, it's people on the internet is obsessed with the term Nepo baby. If someone gets big, it has to be because their parents were someone or paid for something. Now I'm going to dip into the hot take zone real quick. I personally think that is kind of a loser's attitude. Yes, I'm jealous of them. Yes, I wish my band was as big as theirs. But at the same time, I'm not about to be like, oh, they're Nepo babies.
Chris Novoselic once described his political views as kill 'em all, I say. And I believe he lives in the middle of the woods in Washington. So normal guy, chill. That's the thing is, back in the 90s, if you were in a band, you could make enough money to live in a cabin for the rest of your life. I mean, you could burn through all that money in one summer with a drug habit real easily. But if you're smart, you can do that. Now, in terms of having successful parents and Nepo babies, that's nothing new. Not to the entertainment industry, not to the world at large. Of course, that happens all the time. We don't like it. You want to yell about hierarchies and whatever, I'm with you. I'm not opposed to that. But that's always been the case. Rich people always have a step up. It's easy to say Geese because all their parents are rich, they're rich Brooklyn kids. And sure, I don't even disagree with that. But that's not what bothers me, okay? Bothers me is the playing with our heads that is being done in the internet age by creating the illusion of organic consensus. All of these people at the concert, do they actually like Geese? Do you actually like anything? Makes you wonder that, right? Do I like any of the bands I like? Puddle of Mud. It's never been easy to make a career in the arts, in the music, industry as a musician, even, harder than most. But there are poor people doing it, I think. There's still some poor people doing it. Vincent Boone, is he famous? Well, people don't know. But of course, his father was Daniel Boone, who invented that stupid hat. I don't know, guys. I guess my point, and I think you're largely right at Hosey, that I'm yelling about sort of manufacturing. Exactly. Do I really like Crossfade, Stone Sour, or 3 Days Grace? The answer is yes. Listen, all I got to say about 3 Days Grace is, hate Everything About You. Those bands sucked. I'm breaking the irony. I have to say it. Everyone is like, oh man, rock and roll was best when I was in high school. Not me. Rock and roll was maybe the worst it ever was. I graduated high school in 2002. Let's look up top rock songs 2002. What was big that year? Okay, All My Life's okay. Okay, no, we got some good ones. I take it all back. 2002 was good. No, there were some real bad ones. Okay. Foo Fighters, All My Life. I'm not even a huge Foo Fighters fan, and I wouldn't put that in like their top 10 good songs. No One Knows. That's a great song. Coldplay, again, not In My Place. In my place, lines I couldn't replace. Not a huge Coldplay fan. That being said, their first two records got some hits. Put that down. The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. That's a good song. And that's kind of the beginning of some underground stuff. Jimmy Eat World, they had a different trajectory than Geese. They're Arizona kids. You know what they did? They got in the fucking van, as Henry Rollins says. And they toured for years in the underground. This was not that record, which was called Bleed American, and then they had to change the title right after 9/11. That's true. That was not their first major label album. The first one was, I think, Clarity before, which is better. It has Blister. That's on and Goodbye Sky Harbor. I love those songs. Jimmy Eat World's a good band. Right in the Creed era. Exactly. Creed was huge. Anyway, Jimmy Eat World just toured their butts off. And you know what? You could do that at the time. This is another great point about why it's harder to be an artist now. Because no one pays for music and people don't leave their house anymore. When Jimmy Eat World was touring throughout the 90s, you know what they would do? Gas was cheaper. So they could get a little bit more in that van and get to the next spot. But also, when they would go to wherever, Grand Rapids, Michigan, just to pull some random medium-sized out of its fucking ass, even if they weren't a band anybody knew, if they were playing the local rock club, there would be some people showing up. And some people would buy their CDs and their shirts because they were physically there. The Napster, this is the thing, okay? When, you guys remember, Metallica sued a bunch of their fans. Not a great look, but they sued a bunch of their fans for downloading their music on Napster. And at the time, everyone was like, this sucks. I hate this. You know what Lars Ulrich said? He goes, listen, guys, if we stop paying for music, if we create the expectation that all content is free, probably didn't say content, but that was the gist of it. If we create that expectation, this business is done. No one's going to be able to make money off this. And he was right. History has proven him so right. Red Hot Chili Peppers, by the way. I like Can't Stop. By the way, is boring. You know you're right. You know you're... That's pretty good. Toxicity of the City. Top mainstream rock song, Three Doors Down. The guy from Three Doors Down died recently. Rest in Bozo. I don't know. I think he was a Trump guy, but who gives I don't know when I'm gone. I like their kryptonite. When I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? Puddle of Mud, Blurry, and She Hates Me. Oh, I like She Hates Me. Met a girl, thought she was grand. Coach Ice is a great song. That's really good. It would be wrong for me to say Audio Slave better than Soundgarden or Rage Against the Machine. Rage Against the Machine and Soundgarden are both better than Audio Slave. But Audio Slave was certainly much better than it had any right to be. One of the great supergroups. The Vines. I want to get free. I want to get free right into the sun. They were poor kids from Australia. But after the Strokes got big, the Strokes someday, everyone was like, give me 3 cute boys with a V name. And the problem with it is the guy from the Vines, everyone thought he was like cute pretending to be autistic. And then they were like, no, he is a mess. Let me see if I can find it. The Vines, one of the great, get free David Letterman, one of the great live TV performances. This is him live on Conan. Ride's a good song. Let's see if this is going to copyright cuck me. I hope not.
Our next guests are an acclaimed rock and roll band.
This song rules. I saw the Vines live at Bollinger Auditorium. There's a great book, Meet Me in the Bathroom, which is a story, an oral history of rock and roll in New York City specifically, but it, covers a lot of different things. in the early 2000s, the turn of the century. And they talk about the vines, coming from Australia and coming to America. And this guy would just get lost. And the tour manager would find him just in an alley staring into the middle distance. Like, he sincerely was not a well man. And before he was in a rock band, his only other job was working at McDonald's. But wages have outpaced inflation. So this is actually not a good. But minimum wage jobs, were always the glue holding so many great rock bands together.
Gonna get free, I wanna get free, I wanna get free, right into the sun. Never love me, she never loved me, she never loved me. Why should anyone? I'll be a fire. You know you're real.
Shit he would just do. Some of the best rock and roll is made by genuinely mentally ill people. It is catchy. This is a big radio hit. He unplugged his guitar. I also don't know what it says on his shirt. This song fucking owns. I had their album. I forget what it was called, but their first album. I saw them live, and he did spend a lot of time just on the ground. They had one guy who played acoustic guitar only, so he just wouldn't be on stage for large portions of it. Okay. All right, Geese, if you do a performance like this, I will take back every mean thing I've said about you. By the way, yeah, and after this performance, the drummer and the bass player both quit the band for a little bit because he ruined his drums. Yeah. It's very cute how pleased Letterman is by all. Letterman was the best, dude. I miss him.
Is he all right, Paul? Can't say. Can't say for sure. Could be the West Nile. The Vines. We'll be right back, everybody.
SM58s. You can dent them, but they never break. You can hammer nails with that thing. Anyway, top rock songs. That was a good one. The Strokes, Someday. I love this. I was in a Strokes tribute band one time, and we were called the Storks, and we played a show at Reggie's in Chicago, a great rock club. And when they put it on the website, they put it on Bands in Town, and they just listed it as the Strokes. And it turns out the Strokes website also used Bands in Town to populate their thing. So the point is, my tribute band's gig was listed on the official Strokes website as their next gig, like a little 200-person cap club in Chicago. And like tickets sold out in like 5 minutes, and everyone was very, very excited. And then we're like, oh, people aren't going to be happy when we come out. I reached out on Twitter to guys from the Strokes to see if they'd come show up, and they did not. She Loves Me Not. Papa Roach. This is the new metal coming in. Incubus, are you in? Incubus got called new metal a lot, but they were sort of just more like alt-rocky, kind of post-grunge stuff. I stand alone. No, these songs, I don't know the song by default, but this song, POD, sucks. Youth of a Nation. POD is dog. POD was so much worse than Creed and Nickelback. Creed and Nickelback got all the Nickelback at least. Creed, the man believed he was Jesus Christ. That was a bit of an issue with him. With arms wide open. At least Nickelback was like, I don't know, we suck. We're Canadian. Yeah. Hoobastank, very bad. Awful band. Not a fan of any of their music. And the reason is you. Yep. Mainstream rock songs. We're doing it. Number one rock songs of the 2000s. Higher, can you take me higher? Don't know, no leaf clover, stiff upper lip, kryptonite. What's interesting is a lot of these bands were bands that were from before before even Nirvana kind of got big, before grunge was huge, you know? Rock and roll didn't really know what to do after Kurt Cobain allegedly put a shotgun up his own butt. I'm getting closer. Look at this. Loser by Three Doors Down was number one for 21 weeks, just the rest of the year. Dude. Californication only number one for 2 weeks. That was a big song. Oh, dream of Californication. Number one biggest streak of 2000 was Loser. Number two was Kryptonite, both by Three Doors Down. They were a huge band. I believe Three Doors Down played Trump's inauguration. Trump inauguration. They did. They did perform at Donald Trump's Make America Great Again welcome celebration on January 19th. They played When I'm Gone. So, idiots. Yeah, good stuff. All right, guys, I'm going to go use the restroom. Then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about Tucker Carlson. But remember, if I could have one message I am sending from this segment, it's this. You shouldn't like any music. All music is bad. All the time, none of it's good.